in the healtitude city of Aethelgard, where the air is thin and the spirit is tested. Every young traveler reaches the plaza of the final choice. In the center of the plaza stand two massive stone gates. The gate of velvet is wide, downhill, and smells of blooming jasmine. It promises a life of immediate comfort, soft beds, and a path that requires no sweat. The gate of iron is narrow, steep, and jagged. It leads directly into the freezing winds of the cragged peaks, promising nothing but struggle, cold nights, and the weight of a heavy pack. Two brothers, Caspian and Silas, stood before these gates. Silas, the younger, looked at the gate of velvet and saw a shortcut to the life he thought he deserved. "Why should I bleed for a view I can get for free?" he asked. He stepped through the easy gate and found himself on a smooth, carpeted road. For the first few years, his life was a dream. He ate well, slept long, and never felt the sting of a blister. But as the years passed, the air in the valley grew thick and stagnant. Silas found that because he never climbed, his legs grew weak. Because he never fought the wind, his spirit became fragile. The easy path didn't lead to a kingdom. It led to a swamp where he became a prisoner of his own comfort, unable to leave because he no longer had the strength to walk uphill. Caspian, however, chose the gate of iron. His first step was onto a sharp rock that cut his boot. The wind screamed at him to go back, telling him he wasn't strong enough. For months, Caspian's life was a series of difficult goods. He had to learn to build fire from wet wood, had to learn to breathe when the oxygen was low. He had to learn to talk to his own fear when the night was at its darkest. But a strange thing happened to Caspian. Every time a rock cut him, his skin grew tougher. Every time the wind pushed him, his heart grew larger. He wasn't just climbing a mountain, he was building a man. 5 years later, the paths converged at the summit of sovereignty. Caspian reached the top, his body scarred but his eyes glowing with the fire of 1,000 victories. From the summit, he could see the entire world, and he realized that the difficult good had given him the vision of a king. Below him, in the thick fog of the valley, he saw the gate of velvet. It didn't lead to a destination. It circled back to the beginning, over and over, trapping those who chose it in a loop of mediocrity. Caspian looked down and saw Silas, now an old man in a young body, weeping because he had everything but was nothing. Caspian realized the ultimate truth of the two options. The easy bad path is a debt you pay at the end, wheaten to rest. The difficult good path is an investment you pay at the beginning, with a harvest that never ends. The difficulty isn't an obstacle, it's the price of admission to your true self. You must choose your hard. You can choose the heart of discipline or the heart of regret. One leads to a peak, the other leads to a pit. Caspian stood upon the summit, but his heart was heavy with the memory of the brother he had left behind. In the valley of ease, and he realized that the final test of a difficult good was not just reaching the top for himself, but having the strength to go back down and offer a hand to those who had surrendered to the easy bad. He began his descent, not through the gate of velvet, but through the hidden trails of the shadow side, where the air was thick with the smell of decay and the sounds of people who had traded their dreams for a comfortable sleep. He found Silas sitting by a stagnant pool of water, his eyes glazed and his hands soft as water. Unable to even lift a stone to build a fire, Silas looked at Caspian's scars and laughed a hollow, bitter laugh, asking why anyone would choose to bleed when they could simply sit and fade away in the warmth of the swamp. Caspian knelt beside him and told him that the warmth was not life. It was the slow rot of a soul that had stopped moving, and that the reason the path was easy was because it was all downhill, leading to a pit where the walls were made of tomorrow and the floor was made of... Maybe he offered Silas his hand, but Silas pulled away, terrified of the pain of the first step upward, because he had lived so long without resistance that even a breeze felt like a blow. Caspian realized that you cannot carry a man who is not willing to crawl. But he also knew that the difficult good gives you a patience that the easy bad can never understand. He stayed in the swamp for 40 nights, not sinking into the mud, but standing firm as a pillar of strength, showing Silas that a man could exist in the dark without becoming a part of it. Finally, Silas took a single, agonizing step, and the scream of his unused muscles was the first sound of his resurrection. They began to climb together, and for every inch Silas moved, Caspian had to hold the weight of two men, proving that the difficulty of the good path is not just for your own growth, but to build the capacity to save others who are drowning in their own comfort. They reached the halfway point, where the velvet path met the iron path, and a guardian appeared, offering them a final chance to turn back to the easy life, telling them that the summit was a lie and that the struggle was for nothing. Silas wavered, the siren song of the easy bad pulling at his heels. But Caspian looked him in the eye and told him that the pain of climbing lasts a moment, but the pain of regret lasts forever. They chose the iron again, and as they broke through the final cloud layer, Silas saw the sun for the first time in a decade, and realized that the difficult good was not a punishment. It was the only way to earn the right to see the truth. He saw that the easy path was a cage with no bars, and the hard path was a mountain with no ceiling. And he finally understood that the most motivational lesson of all is that the hardness is the medicine, and the ease is the poison. Gemini said Caspian and Silas finally reached the summit of sovereignty, where the air was no longer cold, but felt like a living fire that burned away the last traces of their old selves in there. In the center of the peak, they found the architect of choice, a figure whose body was made of both solid diamond and shifting. Smoke the architect did not congratulate them, but pointed back down to the velvet path, which, from this height, looked like a golden serpent coiling around the base of the mountain. He told them that the easy bad was not created by a demon, but by the human desire to arrive without traveling, and that the difficult good was not a punishment from the heavens, but a filter for the heart. He revealed that the world is a giant sorting machine where those who choose the comfort of the moment are slowly ground into the dust of history, while those who choose the struggle of the climb are forged into the stars that guide the next generation. Silas looked at his hands, which were now calloused and strong, and he realized that the ease he had once craved was a slow death that disguised itself as a nap. While the pain he had feared was the only thing that had made him truly alive, the architect gave them a single golden key and told them that the summit was not a destination to live upon, but a vantage point to see the truth that the most difficult good of all is not the climb itself, but the decision to stay high when the valley calls you back. Every single morning they looked out over the horizon and saw millions of other gates appearing for millions of other souls, and they realized that the battle between the easy and the hard is the only war that never ends, and the only war that truly matters. Caspian and Silas did not stay on the peak, but turned back toward the world as the two sentinels of the Iron Gate, their voices becoming the thunder that tells every weary traveler that the easy path is a beautiful forest that leads to a cage, while the hard path is a dark tunnel that leads to the stars, and that you must choose your heart today, because the choice you make at the gate is the life you will have to inhabit at the end. Everything in your life is a result of the door you walked through, and the greatest motivational lesson is that the iron is in your blood and the velvet is only in your mind. Caspian and Silas did not stay in the safety of the summit, for they realized that the highest purpose of the difficult good is to become a bridge for those still trapped in the valley of the easy bad. They descended back to the Plaza of Choice, where thousands of new travelers stood, shivering before the two gates, and they saw a young woman named Aria who was reaching for the velvet handle of the easy door, because her feet were tired and her heart was heavy with the weight of the world. Silas, who had once been a prisoner of that very door, stepped forward and placed his calloused hand over hers, telling her that the flowers of the easy path are made of paper and the scent of jasmine is the smell of a soul going to sleep. He showed her his scars and told her that every mark was a map of a victory she had not yet won. Aria looked at the iron gate and saw only the jagged rocks. But as she looked into Silas's eyes, she saw a fire that the valley could never produce. Se realized that the difficulty is not an obstacle, but a weight room where the universe builds the muscle of your character. She let go of the velvet and gripped the iron, and as she took her first step, the entire plaza shook with the sound of 1,000 chains breaking, because every time one person chooses the difficult good, it makes the path easier for the next soul to follow. Caspian and Silas became the eternal guardians of the Gate of Iron, their names becoming the wind that whispers through the trees to every person standing at a crossroads, telling them that the easy choice is a debt you pay at the end, with the interest of your own regret, while the hard choice is an investment you pay at the beginning with a harvest of freedom that never ends. The struggle is not your enemy, it is your architect, and the ease is not your friend, it is your thief. Choose the iron, choose the climb, and choose the man you were born to be, because the two options are always there, but only one of them leads to the stars. Aria looked at the iron gate, then back at the velvet path. and she saw that the golden mist of the easy road was not light but a shroud for those who had given up on themselves, and she felt a sudden, terrifying clarity that every later she had ever said was a brick in the wall of her own prison. Silas stood before her, his presence a mountain of grounded peace, and he told her that the architect of choice is not waiting for her to be perfect, but waiting for her to be honest, because the Iron Gate doesn't require a hero. It only requires a person who is tired of their own excuses. Aria reached out and touched the cold, jagged metal of the Iron Gate, and the moment her fingers met the steel, the jasmine scent of the velvet path turned to the smell of rotting parchment. She realized that the easy bad was a script written by her fears, while the difficult good was a blank page waiting for her courage to write a new story as she stepped through the gate. Grong didn't give way, but it pushed back against her feet, giving her the resistance she needed to stand taller than she ever had in the Valley of Ease. Caspian and Silas watched her go, and they knew that the legend of the two gates would now live on in her every step, proving that the struggle is the only true proof of life, and that the hardness is not a barrier but a bridge. She climbed into the clouds, and as her form disappeared into the mist, a final voice echoed through the plaza, telling every soul at the crossroads that the choice you make when you are tired is the choice that defines who you will be. When you are triumphant, everything in your life is a result of the door you walked through today. And the greatest motivational lesson is that the iron is in your blood and the velvet is only in your mind. You are exactly one difficult choice away from a completely different life. That life is waiting for you at the top of the mountain. Aria climbed higher than the clouds, where the air was no longer a weight but a fuel, and she reached the silent plateau of the unwritten years, where she saw millions of empty pedestals waiting for the statues of those who had the courage to finish. The climb, she'd realized that the difficult good was not a one-time choice at a gate, but 1,000 tiny decisions made in the dark when no one was watching. And she saw that the easy bad was a slow erosion of the soul that happened when not. Today at a time, as she stood in the center of the plateau, the architect of choice appeared not as a giant, but as a mirror showing her that the only thing standing between the girl she was and the woman she could become was the weight of the comfort she was still unwilling to leave behind. She looked down at her hands and saw that the iron of the gate had turned into a golden compass, built into her very skin, showing her that those who choose the hard path are never truly lost because they carry their own direction within them. Sora and Kalan, Caspian and Silas all appeared in the shimmering air around her, their voices merging into a single resonant chord that told the world that the struggle is the greatest gift the universe can give you, because it is the only thing that can carve a masterpiece out of a block of clay. Aria took her final step into the blinding light of the true summit, knowing that her story was now the anthem for every person standing at their own crossroads. Paralyzed by the fear of the climb, she whispered to the wind that the velvet is a shroud for the dead, while the iron is a suit of armor for the living, and that the reason you are tired is because you are carrying a version of yourself that you were meant to leave at the gate exactly now. Everything in your life is a result of the door you walked through today, and the greatest motivational lesson is that the hard path is the only one that doesn't have a ceiling. Caspian and Silas returned to the gates, not as travelers, but as guardians. They realized that the difficult good isn't just a path you walk, it's a life you build. Most people will choose the velvet because it's easy, but you are still here, listening to this story, because you know there is a mountain inside you, waiting to be climbed. The iron is in your blood. The velvet is only in your mind. Today, stop asking for a lighter burden and start asking for broader shoulders. The gate is open. The choice is yours. If you are choosing the iron path today, type iron in the comments below. Let the world know you aren't afraid of the climb. And if this story moved you, subscribe to Natural Dose to join our journey to the summit. We don't do easy here. We do what is right. Your time is coming. Keep believing. Keep fighting. Don't just watch. Go out and prove them wrong. Thank you for being part of the journey. If you liked it, please like, comment, and subscribe. Bye.